It's Monday, and I'm joined by Jenna Martin. Hi, Jenna Martin.
Hello.
How are you?
I am busy.
Yeah,
My
well, you
goodness, I'm
do have a
busy.
campaign to run. I don't anymore, so I get to do the whole. I get bits of my life back,
Yeah.
which has been a delightful change. I do have to say it's funny because ending a campaign is a lot of stress because you have to deal with the final paperwork and the C5 and all the things that you have to file. But I had a really good company that I was working with, and they've been amazing. And so I was able to close out everything pretty quickly and get the rest of my campaign money back to either donors that I needed to go to or off to other campaigns, which was a very nice thing to do. So, and now that it's out of my head, I get to yell at people for being.
Over here, we're doing it's campaigns, but we're organizing Yellowstone County at the same time. So we're doing both. There's just the candidates out here have no time for anything. It is November or bust in every possible sense of the word. So trying to get a good structure out here organized so that we can, next year and the next cycle in 2024, we're not doing the whole, running around begging for candidates to run. We're going to make sure we've got it set up and ready to go long before that happens.
Building a table, having some youth involved, and maybe like not listening to the people who are old enough that they should have been dead already.
Yeah, we're rebuilding the whole table. and it's been great too, because a lot of people that were involved, that I was afraid were going to be, pushing back and kind of roadblocks, have kind of just seen us coming from a while away, and they were like, you know what, let's do it. So got
Awesome.
a lot of folks on board. It's been good.
That's great.
Yeah.
So I have a couple of topics right off the bat that I wanted to bring up.
Oof.
The first one is this interesting one. So Dartmouth has eliminated student loans for undergrad programs. So I went and looked this up because I had not heard about it. I'm going to go ahead and click this into the captions because nobody's there. It's fine. Put it up. But basically, Dartmouth is eliminating student loans for undergrad programs in favor of expanded scholarship programs. And they're wondering if this is an acceptable alternative to free college or simply an excuse to avoid government responsibility for the failed federal student loan program that has effectively been a tax on the middle and lower classes for decades. So I went and looked at it, and it's an interesting thing. What they did is this is only for people who are in families whose parents make more than $125,000. And obviously they get accepted to Dartmouth.
Mm-hmm.
They used to have scholarships to a point, and then they would have some other things. And it included $5,500 in loans every year, which is $22,000 over the course of a normal 4-year the time of year college. And they're like, and we're saving people $22,000. No, you're not. So I want to know what your thoughts are on it. It doesn't affect anybody that makes less than that, because everybody that makes less than that was already on a full scholarship system. So
gosh, it's that's
weird.
A fascinating thing. I don't know. I hadn't heard about that until you just mentioned it.
Yeah, I hadn't heard about it either. I love some of my friends. They're so deep into specific areas of social justice. It's like, let me tell you what's wrong.
Yeah, no. Gosh, I'm still a firm believer that it should be college flat out needs to be free, period. And I'm not quite sure how to go about it, because I'm firm belief that college needs to be free, period, especially at a point now where the education level of our people is directly related to the kind of jobs you can get. So if you don't go to college right now, you're fairly limited. There's quite a bit of limiting. I mean, so many jobs require degrees. So many jobs require master's degrees. It's not a special thing anymore. There's quite a bit you have to do. And then there's also trade schools and stuff. But yeah, this, I don't know. I'm interested to see how this will play out. Eliminating student loans for undergrad programs in favor of expanded scholarship programs.
Right.
And that's
so this
for
is only
above
for
100,000, but above
125. Right. If they're below that, they were already getting a scholarship. So the interesting thing about this is they're just saying, oh, well, if you're upper middle class, we're no longer going to pile onto you this level of debt that's absolutely unreasonable anyway, and that we're fair to say is probably going to go away and make everything crazy. Hold on. That's because I posted it. I'm logged in that way.
Yeah, I don't
So,
know. It's fascinating though. I want to know how it works.
my
I
whole
don't know.
take with it, yeah, my whole take with it, with all of it, is that in any situation where you are putting the education of the public to a ability test of, hey, we have this, are you going to be able to uh, have a future and make money if we don't punish you in this way with
Hmm.
loans?
Hmm.
That's a problem. So
Yeah.
instead of doing that, let's actually make it so that education, whether it's trade school or college or any of it, let's make
Hmm.
it so that it's available to everybody. We had a discussion. I don't remember if you were on it or not, but there was one time when I brought it up, and I think that actually education and social security should be tied together in an interesting way. Meaning, and
Ooh.
my thought on it is, for every 5 years that you pay into the social security program, you should get 1 year where you get to go do whatever the hell you want. And you can go to school, any school in the nation. You can go to a trade school. You can take a year off to write the great American novel. You go sit on a beach. We don't care. But you will be paid whatever your average salary was of the 5 years that you paid into it for that year,
I
so that
love
you
that.
can have a life. And
I love that.
along with, so that would allow for, and this would allow for, if you have student loans and you've paid them off, you get 2 years of that right away.
Hmm.
If you haven't paid them off, you get credit towards what you have paid off into your
Hmm.
social security as you paid forward, and you move into it as well. And so that way it kind of evens out the whole uh I paid for my student loans and nobody paid them off for me, and I feel like I'm being discriminated against. Oh, boo hoo hoo. Um, just get over yourself. But mostly it makes that a little bit more fair. But it also helps all the people that never got a chance to go to college because they were never in a financial situation where they could, or weren't
Yeah.
in a safe social structure where they could go to college. It turns around and makes it available to them. Because one of the
Yeah.
biggest concerns that I've had for a really long time with the way our society is set up is not that we're missing out on, a super bright, rich, cisgendered white male. It's how many people who don't fit that,
Yeah. Yeah.
that level of privilege, that have the brains and the ability of Einstein, but never had the resources and the access to show it to the rest of the world. How
Well,
far
and
behind are we because we keep screwing that up?
and you bring up a good point too, because when you're saying something like that, it's not just that includes art in the mix. And I think art gets
Absolutely.
completely overlooked. And art is something that I genuinely feel is not as it's more necessary the worse things get. The worse your
Mhm.
life gets, the more brutal things get, the more people turn to art, whether it's television or books or poetry or music, whatever it is. Whenever our lives go downhill, we escape into art. And so when we see these increases in suicide levels, we see increases in mental health issues, I can't help but wonder, those are all going up at the same time as we're cutting funding from art schools, from art in public high schools, and like all that kind of stuff. We're cutting music programs, we're cutting all of these different programs, and you wonder why people are searching for some sort of meaning or some sort of thing to kind of tide them over. I wonder if it's related. I'd be interested. I'd look up a study
It
or
very
two.
much is. I mean, if you go back to World War II, there's the famous Winston Churchill quote where they asked him, in your budget, you still include money for the arts. Why? Because if we don't have that, why are we fighting?
Yeah, exactly.
What are we fighting?
Exactly. Well, they
The
say that
thing
with
that
poetry. They say with poetry,
exactly.
people never think about it. You never think about poetry until a loved one dies, or you're in love. Like, until you have an emotion that you just don't know what to do with, all of a sudden then you're connecting with poetry. But when you're going to work, you're coming home, you're doing this kind of daily grind, we don't really think about it too much. But then something happens in our lives, something throws our lives completely out of whack, and all of a sudden we find meaning in poetry. I think it's fascinating. This is Carl, by the way. And
Carl.
this is Carl, and I could put him down, but if I put him
But
down, he will
no.
just scream. So,
Well, that's what cats do.
yeah.
You have been told by your cat master that you will have the thing there. That would be
Yes.
great.
It's either pet him and he'll be quiet, or put him down and he'll scream. So,
Yes, and then you will pet him anyway, because
yeah.
eventually, at some point, that's exactly what happens. Um, so yeah, I think that's interesting. With one of the things that we have going on, I will tie this into a question about some stuff that's going on here in Montana. Um, how have you thought about what the Board of Regents for the um, college system have been doing their job? How do you
Ooh,
feel
about what now? The
about the
Board of
Board of
Regents for what?
Regents
Mm-mm.
for the colleges?
Okay.
It's like open-ended question, and I know I'm kind of putting you on the spot here, but
Yeah, that as far as the Board of Regents for colleges, I am very specifically interested in MSU Bozeman because MSU Bozeman and MSU Billings is a satellite school that we have to deal with, and there are countless issues between MSU Billings and MSU Bozeman because they tend to take funding that should go to us in Billings and they take it for Bozeman. If something is working, they take it there. If the athletic program's working, they take it there. If there's people are showing interest in nursing, they put the nursing school in Bozeman. And so Billings is constantly fighting. So my specific beef with any university about anything is pretty much always this Billings and Bozeman just issue that we constantly have all the time going on. So whatever the Board of Regents is doing for the rest of the state, I don't know very much about, but I do know the Bozeman and Billings issues.
Yeah, did your cat just hit your keyboard?
You probably did. You typed something?
Anyway, so the interesting thing about that is when I went to college in 1991, I went to MSU, Bozeman. And that was the first year that they started the unification project of all of the smaller schools under the two main schools. And the reason that they did that, and I will tell you straight up the reason they did that, because we had discussions about this on campus, and I hated the idea that I thought it was foolish and dumb. And they did it. And I was like, you are just taking away their identity. You shouldn't do this. And their stated reason for doing it is that they were going to reduce the overhead of administration because you'd have one president for each of the two schools. That's it. So you would just have the one president, the administration would be centralized and nothing would be on the other campuses. And they'd see millions and millions of dollars in savings. They never, ever, 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 ever saw a dime of that.
No,
because they didn't get rid of anyone. They still have effectively presidents at either school, at any of the schools. And what they did do is they took away the identities of the other schools. So MSUB, Billings, used to be Eastern Montana College. Yep. Northern used to be Northern Montana College. Western used to be Western Montana College. Tech used to be Montana Tech, not Montana Tech of the University of Montana. Even the little schools in like Helena.
Yeah.
Helena College used to be Helena College. Now it's HCOM. It's Helena College of the University of Montana. That is the worst name ever.
I hate it.
It's so awful. But what they did in taking away the identities of the school is they made it so the people that graduated from there have no real link back to the schools as their alma maters, because they had a little bit, they still have the Northern Lights, they still have the Bulldogs, so they have a little bit of what was when it was an independent school, but they don't have the name anymore. And so their funding from their alumni dropped. They never saw any of the savings in the administration, and the identities are lost. And then it created the problem where you have the satellite schools being subbed to the main schools. So if anything does work, they steal it to the main schools.
Well,
so
they
the
do.
Satellite schools can never grow.
It's like, let's present. Hey, we have this great major that's going to work out really well here, and like here's a presentation of all the money it's going to make because all the kids are going to want to come here and pay tuition, and they're like, oh, that's great, we'll just start a nursing school down here. We're like,
right, we'll do it in Bozeman. Which is exactly the wrong thing to do. So so it gets a little frustrating with that, and I do think it's interesting with the way that the regents have been going about some things. I just now I'm trying to remember why I brought it up, because I had a reason.
I wanted to hear
It's a Monday. It's a Monday. Let's see. Dartmouth, the Regents, putting everything around. There was something coming up this fall, I guess. It'll come to me in a minute. But yeah, no, it's really frustrating to watch some of the stuff happen. It's having been to Billings like 4 times in the last 6 months. I do think it's interesting how often Billings is thought of as secondary in so many ways when it leads in so many ways.
Well, and that's one of the biggest things. Like for Missoula, we think of Missoula and Bozeman as college towns, and it's like, why on earth is Billings left out of that conversation? Because we are absolutely a college town. We have like 5 colleges, universities here. We've got tech. We've got all kinds of stuff going on here.
Right.
And our population has like this very big, massive shift as, students come in and students leave. But we're just completely left out of that conversation of what a college town is and what it looks like and how we should develop based on what a college town is, because we kind of are constantly in this weird second fiddle relationship to Bozeman. And yeah, it's a whole thing. I mean, where there's been countless nights where, there's been I played softball at MSUB. My husband played baseball at MSUB, and our friends are still coaches and athletes and, people in the athletic department. So yeah, there's plenty of nights when there's people at our house drunk at 5 a.m. still ranting about MSUB and Bozeman.
Well, it's one of those things that, the regions have a lot of power over how the schools are run, but this is one of those areas where they just need to take a step back and actually do the right thing, which is give every school their identity back.
Mm-hmm.
Like, MSUB doesn't need to be MSUB. It could be Eastern Montana College. It could be Eastern Montana University. Although if it becomes Eastern Montana University, I don't think they could be the Yellow Jackets anymore. They should be Murder Birds at that point.
I do like that, but I have a Yellow Jacket gear. I mean, it's covered in cat hair now, but whatever. My
mom actually went to Eastern as well, and
yeah,
it cracks me up because if you talk to anybody older than me, in order to communicate to them what school she went to, it's Eastern. Younger, it's MSUB, and I'm like in that borderline where I have to remember it's both, and it's irritating. It's one of those things where government stepped in and it's like, oh, well, we're going to do this thing that's obviously going to improve efficiencies because we're going to work like a business. You just stubbed your toe with a jackhammer.
Oh, wait until like go run play. One of my majors is health and human performance, and they had to change the degree because we had a degree in human performance, everyone thought was dance. So we're applying for jobs and they think that it's dance related instead of health and like kinesiology and biomechanics. So they actually had to change the name of the degree. So now when I put on applications, this is one of my undergrad degrees. It's like, but you can't really verify that with the school because that's not even what the degree is called anymore. It's changed names like 4 times. So now I just write like it's health and kinesiology, and I'll explain later.
Right. It's bendy things, yoga.
It's running and jumping and stuff. It's fine.
Things I don't do.
Yeah, it's fine.
That's delightful. One of the other things that Brandy posted was the new platform of the Texas GOP is literally just QAnon talking points. And whether the fact that they're doing this undermines the value and validity of reaching across the aisle. So the question is, do you think we should be reaching across the aisle? Considering that on the other side of the aisle is idiots covered in poison ivy.
I love that question, and I have such a good freaking answer for it. I mean,
go for it.
I think it's a good answer. But the thing is, like, I got asked this question in an interview a couple weeks ago, and the fact is that the Dem Party is so, and it may be Republicans too. I don't think Republicans as much. I think it's more Dem Party are such an individualistic party. Like, we're a group, and then we've got hardcore progressives and we've got moderates, and we're kind of butting heads all the time in the middle while trying to stay under this platform. And I think when people talk about the importance of reaching across the aisle, we're speaking about that in an individualistic sense. I don't reach across aisles. That's not my job. That's not my strength. We have people in our legislature right now that is their strength. People like Melissa in HD 44, Melissa can pull perspectives out of thin air. She can take 2 people fighting, butting heads, and be able to form a cohesive sentence and bring them both to the same page. She can reach across aisles. She's fantastic at it. My strength is not reaching across aisles. What my strength is setting a boundary firm. That when we say we are going to compromise up until this point, and then people start pushing on that point, that's where I can step in. That's my strength to say, no, this is the line, and we're fighting right here on. And if you can send me in then, I can bulldog for hours. I can stand firm for days, months, weeks, whatever it takes. That is my strength. So when it comes to working across the aisle, I think we need to focus that on what the group does. We need to work as a team and know which legislators, legislators we use to work across the aisle, which legislators we use to stand firm and bulldog when this needed. We all need to have our strengths and then work as a team. So when people ask me like how I would reach across the aisle, I don't, and I wouldn't. That's not my strength. I have strength in other areas, and that's where I am best used.
That's awesome. One of
But I think that's also why when we are talking about electing people too, I need to be elected for certain reasons, and then we need to elect Melissa for certain reasons. And that's what I mean. Like, we need people with all of these strengths. We need people as a group to get to Helena, not just one or two individuals. If that makes sense.
Right. And as Brandy has just puts it in, that yes, reaching across the aisle is just moving to the right if nobody is willing to hold the left line. We need anchors.
Exactly.
In order to make this work, you have to have an anchor so that you can throw ropes so that you can pull them our way. And one of the things that we haven't been really good at as a party is throwing people really far to the left so that the people that aren't as far to the left feel free to be themselves. I mean, that was one of the things that I ran on. I'm willing to be as far to the left as anybody.
Oh, exactly. If you're going in there, I'm an anchor. Use me as an anchor. I'm a great anchor. But don't
I'm a Molotov cocktail.
Yeah, don't put me in the front of the line and think that I'm going to be the one that's going to sit down and have a nice, calm conversation about things. That's not where I'm going to be most beneficial to anyone. Put me as an anchor. That's what I was good at.
Yeah, that's awesome. What I love about having a conversation with you is that you're forthright and quick. Unfortunately, that means I have to come up with other questions. It's super fun.
I have a topic.
By all means, start out.
Did you see what they're doing in Georgia with the trial program for what is it called? The Black mothers that they are giving $850 a month, 2 years, no strings attached.
The universal basic income?
Yes.
I haven't seen the one in Georgia, but I did see the one that they started doing in San Jose, California.
Yes.
The way that one worked, and it was a pilot project for a year. It's now continuing on and has expanded. And it was a universal basic income. So let me back up and give some context for some people who don't quite know what this is. And this is my understanding of it. I'm not steeped in this information, so some of it may be a little bit off. But basically what it is these people who are in this program have a guaranteed amount of money that they will get every month in order to live. It's not a extravagant lifestyle that they will be able to get from them, but it is a baseline that they will be able to afford some things in their life. And as far as I remember from the San Jose project, it was only like $500 a month. So it's not even rent in California. Sorry, it's not going to be.
Oh, no, it's a small amount. I know in Georgia it was $850. And there's no work requirements. There's nothing.
There's literally, if you're accepted into this program, this is the money. We're just going to see how it does. And what ended up happening is these people, their stress levels went down. They were less likely to break the law in drug use or get, any sort of, DUI, any of that stuff. They actually expanded their education. They were able to expand their work because they were not in a position where they were going, oh, I have to take this dead-end job that I hate, that's dragging me down, that's cutting me off from my friends, that's destroying my social structure, that's destroying me mentally and giving me other problems. They had that base, and so they were able to do many, many things. And so the way it looks like it's played out is that you have people who, because they have this safety net that they've never had before, are all of a sudden empowered to make changes in their lives that they were never able to see before. Yeah. And those changes include things like actually finding a job they like, getting an education in an art and being able to turn that into a job, being able to learn new skills to turn that into a job,
finding new housing, leaving abusive relationships.
Right. And all of those things that many of us just consider that, this is the normal way to live a life, right? This is how it goes. What many people, especially in Montana and especially in white America, don't realize is that, no, that is not normal. That is not what these people have faced. And we can go into the racist structure of the country, and we can
Mhm.
have a discussion of that. That's going to be much longer than the hour that we have here. But suffice it to say, those opportunities that we consider normal are not always available to every single citizen of the
Yeah.
United States. And these programs with a universal basic income, which is literally below the poverty level, it is literally below the survivability level, still
Yeah.
made their lives so much better that almost every single one of them has turn things around to the point where they're building new social structures, they're building new pieces of society that are more helpful, supportive. They build outreach, they build community, and they're able to change their lives in structural, fundamental ways
Just
that
drastic.
last. Right.
Drastic.
And
Yes.
here's the other part of it. Everybody's like, well, I don't understand why you would just give somebody, 500 or $850. It's like, okay, here's the thing that you've got to know. If these people are, found to be homeless, and then they get a ticket for being homeless, and they don't show up for the ticket, or they can't pay the ticket because they're fucking homeless,
Mhm.
and then they end up in jail, we're going to spend anywhere from $14,000 to $150,000 a year to lock them up. That's more than $850 a month. Which would you rather spend? And which would you rather have? Because at the end of the day, if you take, instead of the 14,000, which I will point out is more than $1,000 a month, so that's higher than this, and you save a little bit off of that, and you give the person $850 and they never end up in jail, how much money did you save?
Yeah.
A shit ton. And you improve their lives, which was ostensibly the whole point of having, you originally, prison wasn't supposed to be punishment, it was supposed to be about rehab, but we don't fucking do that.
No, we don't do that at all.
So I'm excited that Georgia has been expanding it. I didn't realize that was happening.
I think they're either putting it in place like this month, next month. It's something like starting immediately, and it's going to be 2 years. The entire pilot program will be 2 years, $850 a month. I'm so excited. I'm so excited because every time we see this somewhere, it works. It works like beyond what any of the measures even like people estimated it to work. They're like, we'll see what happens, and then it ends up working so well that it's just impossible to argue with. And so I love the fact that Georgia's doing it next. If Stacey Abrams becomes governor, I just can't. I'm thrilled for them. But I also love this because it gives us a starting point. So it gives us something that we can do in Montana, and we can look at these other states and say, okay, give me that. I want that info. I want that data. How did you set it up? How did you run it? Let me see everything that you did, and I just want to copy paste and then tweak for what we could possibly do here. It makes me excited. I saw that this week, and I was pretty pumped about it.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's cool. I'm gonna do a different topic. One of the ones is there's now a bunch of people that are opining about the Department of Justice and their lack of prosecution of the former guy. And one thing that just came up was Jack Goldsmith had an opinion on the New York Times, and I'm not a huge fan of his. I think he tends to be all, he's a Bush appointee, first off, so he tends to be very conservative anyway. But he also tends to be very sort of, if we do this, the world will end. The world is ending already.
Yeah.
So where do you stand on that? Where do you think it should be?
So interestingly enough, one of the people that I am friends with is friends with someone who used to work in the White House administration as a law professional. And they've been basically talking with them this whole time. So I've been like, ask your friend this, like, I have a question. And of course, that was a very early on question, right? Like the DOJ is not doing anything, or it came out later that the committee wasn't going to make any actual referrals to, any criminal referrals to the Justice Department. And my friend was like, first of all, like, I don't even have to ask the guy in the White House. This is dumb. If you're not a lawyer, this is actually very simple to understand, which I'm not a lawyer, so I didn't understand it. But they just said that it's basically the January 6th committee, their job isn't to be making any referrals anyway. Their job is to be showing hearings for people for information. But they will never make a referral. They're not supposed to be making referrals, specifically because the DOJ is already doing things. They're already doing their job. They're already doing things. And as soon as the January 6th committee makes a formal appeal to, or makes a referral, a criminal referral, now if the Justice Department decides to prosecute, it looks political. It looks obviously political. So if they don't make that referral and the DOJ keeps doing the things they're doing separately, that all makes a lot more sense legally as to what they're doing. And yes, I
Correct.
want to see referrals everywhere, but obviously
Well, I don't want to see referrals because I don't think that the Congress needs to be involved in this because it's literally it is the Department of Justice's thing. Like
yes,
Congress can do their investigation, they can make
Yeah.
it as public as they want. They can refer things if they get to that point, but it's smarter to let the DOJ do their job. But that's not what I was asking. What I was asking is, does the DOJ should they be prosecuting? Now,
I see.
This relies on two things in your head. Assume, which is foolish, I know, but assume that they have a preponderance of evidence that shows that Donald Trump was involved in the insurrection. Should they prosecute?
Personally, yes. I think it's my husband and I just talked about this last night because the GOP convention, I don't know if you saw the GOP convention, that they just outright as a group said in Texas, said that they reject Joe Biden as a president. They just decided he's not, that his election wasn't legitimate, and that they just kind of outright rejected him as a president. Mm-hmm. And so my husband and I were talking about this because I was like, can we talk about what this means here when like this entire group is now rejecting that the president won the election legally and legitimately. And so we were kind of discussing that. And it's like one of those things where you go, well, if we, if they're just going to reject the president, then does that mean they can reject the federal government laws? Does that mean that Texas can do whatever it wants now? And they're just waiting for the Supreme Court to stop them, for people to go to court for what? Like, what do they do now? We're going to do what we want, deal with it because we don't think you're the real president. Like, it just kind of brings up a lot of weird questions. And that was one of them, was okay, so how far can this possibly go? And we were talking about that.
It can go to war. It can go to war.
Exactly. And so it's like, if you say, okay, well, the January 6th hearings, we've heard people say, should they be showing this? Because it proves that it kind of helps people to lose trust in these systems, because we have this idea of these perfect systems that are working. And then we see the underbelly of them and realize, oh, wow, these are corruptible and they weren't working. And this is where they failed. It makes people uneasy. But what are you doing? Like, it's either we're not going to charge Trump, we're not going to charge any of these people who are obviously showing things, either we don't charge them for the sake of saving these systems. But if that's the case, then we're already losing the system too. If we're not charging people and we're not prosecuting people, then what the hell is the point of the system in the first place? Right? Like, I don't get how that is even a thing of like, oh, I mean, yes, he tried to stage a coup, and yes, he did all these things that were obvious illegal, but guys, it could look bad. Like,
well, and so here's my take on it, because I agree with you, but I agree with you, and really, let me put it that way. I agree with you, and I think the bigger problem is that we are dealing with the fallout from Nixon, and this comes down to Nixon was granted a pardon instead of being charged, and the pardon system effectively meant that Nixon ended up getting to act like a king. He was above other parts of the law. And because of that, we have then set up every president after that to act in a way that is above the law, because we haven't had the backbone as people to say, no, we're going to take this out. And
so if Nixon hadn't gotten a pardon, do you think this would be different?
I do. I think if Nixon hadn't gotten a pardon, he would have been charged. He would have been found guilty of Watergate and gone to jail, which would have been a warning for every other president that you fuck up, you'll go to jail.
Yeah.
And this happens in other countries, and it should happen in ours. If you break the law while you're president, you go to jail. Yeah. Like, that's the thing. I have so many other concerns with what happened during the Trump presidency. I mean, the emoluments clause of the Constitution was completely thrown out the window. And absolutely, he should be charged under the emoluments clause. And every single dime that went into his organization that he had personal control over should be taken out at tenfold back to the federal government. And that's it. That's the way this works. You don't get gifts. You don't get to be bribed. None of this is allowed. And we have to put an end to it. And we missed with Nixon, we missed with Reagan, we missed with the first Bush when he was vice president, because he was running the Iran-Contra thing. He should have gone to jail then. Mm-hmm. And all of these times when we've missed it, we've now literally got one where it is such a massive target. And if you don't have the backbone to stand up and say, these laws must be followed by everyone, including the president of the United States, then we don't have a democracy.
Well, and it's not even including. It's that these laws that he broke only apply to the president of the United States. Like,
Well,
I'm
the
not gonna get in
emoluments
trouble for
clause
that law.
doesn't.
I don't have access to even break the law because I don't have access to get to that position. Like, some of these laws are so specific to the higher ups in our government. There's only like 10 people that can even break the law. And if you don't prosecute them, then what's the law even for?
Right. And it puts it in a position where people aim for that ring, because then it puts them above the law. And they shouldn't be above the law. But it gets back to other ways that we should make the law more fair to people instead of having just flat fee fines for stuff. Because flat fee fines for stuff just means that that's the cost of doing business.
Yeah.
So if you want to park illegally every day, you'll pay $25 every time
Exactly.
they catch you. If you want to speed, you'll pay $250 every time they catch you. If you want to do these other things, it's just going to cost you. Change it. There are a couple 3 European countries that have it based off of what your last tax return was and your stated wealth, not just your taxes, but your stated wealth. And a parking ticket is now, for some people, for billionaires, you're looking at hundreds of thousands of dollars for a parking ticket. And honestly, I think that's fair.
I love it. I'm good for it.
And that's the thing that we haven't done with a lot of what's gone on with our government, is we haven't made it fair to the people at the top in a way that actually makes them responsible for following the laws that everybody else has to follow.
No, it is the price of doing business. It's just a fee at this point. Shooting bail is just a fee for, after a certain level.
And they put it on people who least can afford it and then wonder why they get other tickets. Well, duh. They couldn't afford to pay for the last one, and you gave them a new one because they couldn't afford it. Sir, are you dumb?
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of stuff out there. So, talk to me about what's going on with your campaign.
What's that?
Oh, what question did you have?
I was going to ask, are you watching the hearings? Have you been watching and keeping up with everything?
So, I watched the second night of the hearings. I missed the first night because I was busy doing something else. I don't remember what it was. And I saw the review. I have been enjoying Under the Desk News. And V Spear, they have a podcast as well called V Interesting that they just launched, and they've covered a lot of it very well. Covered a lot of the different takes on it, which has been really good because I don't have 4 hours to devote to, Insurrection, the movie, the IMAX experience.
I'm trying to watch it. I'm not trying. I'm watching it because I feel like it's significant. It's significant. It's important. And there's a lot of times when it's hard to watch because it's boring, or I have kids on and I'm like, I've already seen this part, but they have to review sections to get to the next section, and I'm like, I saw that in episode 2, but I get it.
Right. Wait a minute. Are we watching the Insurrection or Obi-Wan? What's happening?
Exactly.
Here?
So I'm watching it. I know it's important and I know it's significant. It just feels like one of those things that I just my brain needs to absorb, and I need to sit here and do the thing. But it's been fascinating. The first hearing was, I think, difficult to watch. It was a lot of new footage. There was a documentarian that had followed the Proud Boys, basically brought with them because they didn't think they were going to get in trouble for anything. And that was hard to watch.
They don't think.
Yeah, that was rough. I remember thinking, God, this is as bad as I remember, but it was difficult.
Yeah, was there? So I know there was a lot of new footage and a new piece. Was there any new information on the level of, I didn't expect to see that, or I didn't know that this happened?
Yeah, quite a bit.
Such as?
Just, gosh, I think I'm trying to think of in the first one, I'm trying to think of the new information in the first one was, I think, the pre-planning, knowing that the documentarian was with them, and you can see the stuff that they were filming long before the insurrection even started, and how early people got there and what they were doing. And I've always known that it was pre-planned. I mean, they had t-shirts, I know
they had sweatshirts.
Yeah. I know that it wasn't a spur of the moment. They obviously, had, merchandise and stuff. But seeing when you see the documentary filmmaker, what he was doing, it's pretty clear that he was told what to pay attention to. Like, he wasn't just a person in the crowd filming random stuff. It's pretty obvious that he had contact with the Proud Boys, and they were telling him, like, oh, you're going to want to film this guy. You're going to want to film this. You're going to want to film this. Because I think they knew what they were doing. And so they were like, this guy's important. You know, keep an eye on him. That's going to be good. So you can tell that he was not just filming the crowd at random. He was filming specific things. And that's what happened. I mean, I'm the head of the, you know, Montana Film Project here. I do a lot of film. And so it's, you know, to do documentary film and stuff, it's, yeah, I can kind of see where he was shooting and how he was shooting, to be like, oh, he had a little bit of knowledge of what was going on beforehand, and was paying attention to it. And so when you see the footage that he had, it's like you can see the, you know, when they have like those stacks moving through the crowd. It's not just people crashing the building. It is a formation moving towards the building. It's just really eerie, you know, to see that kind of preparation and how severe that preparation really was. So yeah, it was a weird feeling watching it.
It's interesting because being a news junkie myself, I follow a lot of different news sources, but one of the ones that actually kept me informed on a lot of stuff that was happening leading up to January 6th is the blog Joe My God, which I've been following for 20 years now. It's been forever. And Joe actually, basically, he highlights a lot of the news, and because the Proud Boys and Patriot Front and the 3%ers and all of those bullshit wannabe boys groups, they are so anti-gay, they're on his radar. So I saw a bunch of that stuff leading up, you know, we're talking late November all through December, with, you know, this is what they're planning, this is where they're going to be, these are the people that are doing it, Ali Alexander is in all this stuff, blah blah blah. And we saw all of those posts. And so for me, a lot of the stuff that's come out in the second night especially, I was like, we know all of this. Like, this is all known to those of us that were paying attention. So I'm kind of disturbed that the feds weren't paying attention, but then the feds were under the control of the idiot in charge who was, you know, running the thing. So I guess this is what happens. So it's a little bit frustrating, but I think it all gets back down to, you know, nobody is above the law, and these are situations where we need to have somebody step out and actually make this change, make this better. So I'm going to check. Again, I love having conversations with you because it's like, how do you feel about this? Well, I would like it to be better. Okay.
I hate it.
Too. I too would like it to be better. One of the things that I'm going to touch on is we have seen an uptick in anti-queer activities, and you have Pride coming up in Billings this next weekend. 406 Pride is putting on, which we're super excited about. And so, full disclosure, I run Montana Pride, which used to be Big Sky Pride, and in 2017 we helped launch a Pride in Billings, which was awesome. And the group that helped us put that together then went on to create 406 Pride and have an annual event. After that, the only year they missed is, of course, the pandemic year. And this year, they've gotten a bunch of more. Let me try that in English. They've gotten a bunch more of the local businesses involved, including the zoo.
Yes.
And the zoo is having Drag Queen Story Hour on Wednesday.
Wednesday, 12 to 4.
I know several of the drag queens that are involved in this, and the zoo has been getting a lot of interesting pushback.
I think interesting
is what you would say.
Understatement.
If you're a nice person, what I would say is the bigots have come out of the woodwork, and they are terrible. There have been two types that have come out, and the first type is the one that everybody expects. They're the angry bigots. They're the ones who yell and shout and call everybody in the LGBTQ community a bunch of different slurs and say all these horrible things. And they're the ones who everybody hears once, but then ignores because they're terrible people and they're just yelling to be heard and they're a squeaky wheel. And at some point you just ignore them. The more insidious bigots have also come out with this one. And this is people who are more like TERFs. They are generally supportive of the queer agenda until it involves trans people, until it involves drag queens, or until it involves something where someone has told them it's going to be an act that's grooming their children. And then they attack the queer community and they smile while they do it because they
You
think
know,
they're doing good.
you know what? I think you've got that group. I think you have the other group. But there was a third group that came out.
Oh,
There was a third group that was far more insidious than either of those two. Because as you probably full well know, when you like have like a post and someone is the loud, says the mean words and screams and say squeak a wheel, whatever, block them, go. But then you have the people that are not supportive of the gay community at all, with or without trans people, but are really cryptic in the things they say. So much so that
the dog whistlers.
It's dangerous, but it's not enough to make a report. It's not enough to file anything. It's vague enough that they can't get in trouble, but it's specific enough that if you are a part of that community, you know exactly what they're saying. So it was a lot of that, a lot of kind of vague references to things that they're going to show up, and maybe they need to show up and just kind of just lay down the law a bit, just kind of like very vague things that were truly scary. But it's nothing, you can't report it. It doesn't, it's a weird comment, but if you're part of that community, you know exactly what they're talking about. So thing with
the dog whistlers, but I see those all the time, so I don't think they're coming out of the woodwork on this one. But
the thing with the zoo was,
just be my world.
The thing with the zoo was it's weird for them to come out of the woodwork at the zoo. The zoo is as neutral as a neutral. It's animals. It's not usually a target for anything. And so for the people to be blatantly threatening the zoo.
Well, let's be clear. The penguins are always gay.
We know that. But yeah, it was just a weird thing. And I mean, good on the zoo. They didn't take it for a second. They were like, no, hell no, we're having drag hour, and you can all screw off. But it was one of the situations where it's an interesting one, because in those circumstances, typically it's like, oh, am I going to come out and support the gay community? Obviously I'm going to come. But now I've got my kids with me. Do I bring my kids or do I bring me? The whole point is to bring the kids. My kids are above fashion everything. My kids want to dress up in costumes all day long. If they're going to go to a drag show and see other folks in costumes and read stories, I mean, it's a dream come true. They're going to love it. It's going to be the best day. But it's not just a standard, we're going to go and make a statement that, hey, we need to go to this thing and support. It's also been a weird vibe of, we need to go and maybe keep our head on a swivel, because some people just don't fully trust that a lot of these vague comments and a lot of these things that were said as a dog whistle, or were said as something else. So I think it's one of the first times, at least for me, in Billings, and I'm not a drag queen, so it's a different, I have a different experience than, I'm sure that they'd be like, honey, we get that all the time, but it was definitely the first time for me that I felt that those attacks were a little more significant than the typical ones that you see of that community. That felt more significant. So I know that a lot of people are going out to those readings. A lot of people are coming out to Pride. I'm very excited for Pride this year. But it's been an interesting vibe in the air, I guess I'll say. It feels more significant this year, both the threats and the people that are coming out. They're not just coming out to be like, hey, we're coming out to support Pride. People are coming out specifically to make a statement in the face of these comments that have also been more significant. So it's kind of like both sides there's a weight on both sides, it kind of feels like. If that makes sense.
No, it absolutely makes sense. One of the things that, I posted about it, and I got some kickback. I got specific kickback from one lady who was like, well, kids shouldn't be, sexualized. I was like, I don't know what drag shows you're going to, but the ones for kids, they aren't sexualized anything. And then I went and checked out their profile. They had me blocked, but I have other accounts. And checked out their profile, and they have their daughter, their 6-year-old daughter, in a beauty pageant. Like, okay, Pumpkin, I don't know if you know what you're doing with your daughter, but that would be the problem, not the drag shows. Although her hair was fabulous, so whatever.
My daughters at this point just we have Crayola markers, and they just paint their face with the markers now, because the makeup's just too messy. Like, it's everywhere all the time. And so now we just have washable Crayola markers that they just they put on blue and green freckles and they got their neon eyeshadow and they go to camp and it's like, all right, have fun.
Yeah, it's hard to blend, but if you take actually just a little bit of rubbing alcohol on a cotton ball, you can do it.
Oh, they figured it out. It looks great. It looks really good. By the time they're like,
that's amazing.
High school or young adults, I mean, they're going to be unstoppable. But yeah, they look good right now.
That's astounding. That's awesome. So what's new with your campaign? We got about 10 minutes before we wrap this up.
Oh gosh, I am really focused. I'm really focused on making sure that we're all that of all the organizing that's happening in Yellowstone County. I want to make sure that is a priority, and my campaign is alongside that. Because if I only focus on my campaign, everything else suffers. But if I really focus on the organizing, my campaign also, all the campaigns get help.
Rising tide, no lifting boats. Yeah.
Literally. So it's I try really, really hard to focus on everything else and make sure that Melissa and Carol are both canvassing and doing lit drops this weekend. I think Emma in 40, she's at 49 is doing some canvassing this week, and like I'm training volunteers to help canvass with them. And then when it comes time to my district, I know that I'm going to have volunteers ready to go, and I'm going to have other people that I've helped that are also ready to canvass my district. Whereas I could just be by myself and just, go through my district and just canvass mine, and everything else, it just doesn't make sense. So what's new with my campaign specifically is just seeing how much work everyone is doing here in Yellowstone. We've got a great group of volunteers, and they're just getting bigger and bigger every week. We've got another volunteer meeting this Wednesday. We meet multiple times a week. One is just for volunteers and everyone to get on board. There's another meeting we have that is just for work, because now we've got about 10, 12 volunteers that are head of different departments, and all of them, we all kind of sit in a room and work together so we can all get the week stuff done. And so it's a lot of doing that, a lot of fundraising, a lot of stuff like that, and making sure that we can, get money to people and get some signs made up, get the flyers, get all that stuff we need. We're pushing heavy for signs this year because, Dems have a messaging problem, and we're trying to be loud and say, hey, like, we're not sitting back and being defensive anymore. We're going on the offensive. If you support Dems, if you support these causes, put a damn sign in your yard and, show this. So it's a lot of pushing to make sure that, we don't just send flyers out once and then, hope it's good. There's no campaigns of hope running out here. We're going by the numbers and we're working hard, and people are showing up. They're showing up out of the woodwork, and it's been really great. So I'm thrilled with what people are doing. I mean, I think I called close to 75 different volunteers today, texted, messaged, or, on Twitter. And I got to talk to every single one of them. And if they're either coming to the meetings or they're something else until a week or two. So it is just a lot of individual work to get people involved, but people are showing up. It's been great.
Good. Yes, I know you've got some.
We're best friends now.
Yes. Congratulations, Brandy, on finding it. I can't wait for you two to actually meet, because that'll be the greatest moment. I swear to God. But aside from that, if you do need help, there's plenty of other volunteers that we can reach out to with the state, with the other counties to help out too. We do want to have some stuff that's going on, and hopefully MDLCC has reached out to you to give you some help. If they haven't, let me know, because I will go.
Oh no, they're great. Good. No, it's pretty much, I've called like every single organization around Billings, and some can't technically work with us because we're candidates. So they have to be kind of like, we can talk about like, oh, if they have an event, we can also be at the event. We have to like find out. We found out through their calendar though, like obviously, right?
Right.
So it's like they can't actually work with us, or they can't come to our volunteer things. Hopefully in 2024, it's not candidates that are necessarily doing this, and then it would be a lot easier. But this year, that's just that's what it is. So
and for those of you that are in Lewis and Clark County, tomorrow night is our county central committee meeting, and we are looking to actually elect a new chair and vice chair, because our chair and vice chair actually resigned due to personal reasons, which is tough. I'm like, oh, timing, not good. but better than September, I suppose. So we're dealing with that. And then, just so everybody knows, if you're a Democrat, the Democratic State Convention is the last weekend of July. It's in Butte. It's on the campus of Montana Tech. And it is a good chance for everybody to be informed and involved, because I will point out that we discussed what the Republicans did at their platform convention in Texas, which is basically they just decided to take QAnon talking points and make them their platform and prove that they are the worst people on the planet. And well done. Slow claps all around for you. Our convention is where the party of the people gets together and actually listens to the people if the people show up. So
as far as I know, I'm coming, and a lot of the Yellowstone folks, I think quite a bit of us are coming. So there should be
then I will try to find a way to get Brandy to swing over and say hello and go to lunch. Because it's one of those things where if you're not involved, it doesn't go the way that you want it to go, because your voice wasn't there. They didn't hear you because you weren't in the room to speak with them. Yeah. So thank you so much for being on tonight. I know that Monday nights are tough because we have a lot going on. It's the longest day of the year today. So apparently the sun will set for 6 minutes and then we will have dawn.
I didn't even realize that. It's been raining and cloudy all day today. I didn't even hit me.
Right? It's
usually this is like 1,000 degrees, right?
Yeah. Well, June is weird. Like, everybody remembers June as being sunny, but I'm like, no, it's always raining. And the only reason I know that is because we've done Pride for now since 2014. It's always raining for Pride. Oh. Like, when it's in June. When we moved it to July, like last year when we had it, it was in July for the first time, and it was amazing because it did rain, but it literally only rained as the sun went down, as a drag queen lip-synced the line in the song that said, "Let it rain down on me." And God went, all right.
Okay.
So, which was great because everybody got off the street and we took the stage down and the police were super happy. They're like, hey, you cleared the street, and it was clean.
Love it.
So it was, it's one of those things. So yeah. Also, if you get a chance, go and talk to the Pride people about speaking at the rally, because that is important. I can give you their information after we're offline because I don't want to accidentally dox them. Jesus. But it's going to be an amazing week. Have fun at the Drag Queen Story Hour. I'm jealous I won't be able to make it over there, but I've got a prior conflict over here. So
it'll be great. I'm taking lots of pictures, and
awesome.
I'm very excited. I know my kids are gonna love it.
It's gonna be great. Yeah. So anyway, thanks everybody for joining us and for watching live and for watching this later. We actually get about 90% of our audience later on. I should just make these into podcasts. Yeah. Exactly. Just make these into podcasts. And Jenna, you are welcome back anytime. I'm going to call it a couple minutes early, but thanks for having us in your home and listening and pretending that politics matters to you, because it actually matters to everybody.
Anytime. Anytime. Right?
It's great. Thanks, everyone.